Shameless plug incoming. Today's episode is brought to you by the book Everyone is a Sinner But Me, available now at Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Pre-recorded from Volpes Studios, it's the MCS1 show featuring Caleb, Hannah, and now your host, MCS1.
Welcome everyone to another exciting edition of the MCS1 show. I'm MCS1, once again joined by my dear compadre via satellite, Caleb Hannon.
So it's cold up here. I don't know if it's cold down there. But
cold up there.
On the satellite.
It's not really cold here because of global warming, which is clearly a myth.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's not even global warming anymore, right? It's climate change.
I don't know. It gets rebranded all the time.
Just
like Comcast.
Freaking Comcast.
but just like Comcast, the consistency is negative.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, all I can say is, watching it all from up here where I have a nice heat-regulated room.
Must be wonderful.
It is. Although my pee floats, which is weird.
So today we got a super special show. Today this is kind of a little different. Every now and then we do these. Like last year we did BioShock. Like talked about the game and the world that created.
Right.
And then about a month ago we did Fallout because it was like the Fallout. Not like anniversary, but the anniversary of the day the bombs dropped in Fallout.
Right.
Today we're doing the video game DooM and the history of DooM, the game, which sounds kind of crazy, but there is so much that this game has. Not just as a video game, but like what went into it and all the little sub crap. And it's just ridiculous. And I think my favorite thing about this this game is how iconic it is.
Oh, dude, it totally is.
Iconic.
Even casual gamers will know what DooM is.
So I went and I saw 9 Inch Nails in Vegas a few years back with Shane Barker. And
that dick who never listens to our show?
Yeah, that dick that never listened to our show. It was me, Shane, and his brother Josh. We were on the Vegas Strip, and I didn't own any 9 Inch Nails shirts at the time.
Sad.
I know. I mean, I bought some at the show, obviously, in a hoodie, but at the time I didn't own any. And so we're going to the show, and when I went down there to Vegas, I wore a DooM shirt.
Ooh.
The video game DooM. And it was so cool because everyone around Vegas was like, yeah, DooM! And people were like high-fiving me and shouting out. I'm like, man, I've never gotten this much attention from a shirt except for when I wore a Cougar Hunter shirt in Provo. That's the only time I've gotten more or as much attention from a shirt. Like, oddly enough. But it's just that iconic, which is so cool. Like, people know what it is.
It's freaking awesome, though. I mean, DooM, when you really look at it, it's like I don't really know like a ton about the backstory. I only know like teensy bit, like basically what's revealed in the game.
Don't even talk about the game's backstory or the story of the game. That stuff's not even that great. The real good.
Okay.
No, it's not. Because here's the thing. I will admit this. I'm a huge DooM nerd, like totally. I have on my wall like the cover of the first game that they have.
Okay.
I have that, and it's like signed, not actually signed, but like the signatures are on it about all the guys that designed it. I have this framed like on my wall. Like I'm just that ridiculous of a fan of this game because it was just that badass. Just the game itself, and I've read most of the books. They have DooM books that came out in the 90s. Spoiler, they're not very good. They're not very good at all. They're kind of terrible, actually. And there's a couple of them And they don't really follow the video game too terribly much, to be honest, even though the video game didn't have too much of a plot. It did, but it didn't. But the real interesting stuff is what went into the game, like the designers and what they were doing for it. I'll give you a couple of examples.
Some nuggets of knowledge.
Yeah, nuggets of knowledge. So there were cheat codes in this game.
Yes. Yeah, I was familiar with that.
Yeah, there was like to get full key, like all the guns, all the ammo, and all the key cards. You would type ID KFA, which everyone thought was keys full ammo. And the designers were like, no, it was IDKFA was ID, which was id, like id Software, the company that made it. And then it was it kicks fucking ass. And that was the thing for the full keys and ammo. Then one of the designers of the game, he made like his own little custom code in there, which the guy's name was Dave Taylor. And his code was IDDQD, which was the God mode.
Right.
And when you activate God mode, you are like invulnerable.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy.
It's so ridiculous. And it's like, honestly, that's like a lot of what my Doom experience was growing up, was just running around in God mode, just shooting up demons and monsters and all this other stupid stuff. But the IDDQD, people are like, what does that stand for? And here's what it stands for. And there's a bit of backstory to this. So when this Dave Taylor was in college, him and his friends, basically they were like his frat buddies, like his bros.
Right. His bros, bro.
His bros, bro. So they made up this, like when they were doing really bad in their classes, they would just drop. Just quit their classes. And so they made up like this fake frat with them, like Delta or something like that. And so it like the DQD part of like the IDDQD, it was Delta Q Delta, which also meant Delta quit Delta. And so that was their code name for when they were failing out of their classes, and then they would just drop them. Like that was their code for it.
Huh.
Yeah. Like I never would have thought that bro stuff would have made it into Doom.
I mean, it does kind of make sense, I guess.
It does. So let's get into just the ridiculousness of this game even more so. So the company that made this id Software. They made a couple other games beforehand. They made Commander Keen, which, do you ever play this, Caleb?
I did not know.
So it's about this kid that's abducted by aliens, and he wears like a football helmet, and he has a pogo stick.
Huh.
And he just basically fights aliens, and it's weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's kind of it. And then they made Wolfenstein, which was like arguably one of the first real 3D games before Doom.
Right.
Which takes place.
Which is funny because Doom gets a lot of credit for being one of the first 3D games as well.
Yeah. And
rightfully so.
Exactly. So they made this Wolfenstein, which takes place during World War II, and you go around shooting up Nazis.
Right.
And then, Doom came out, and Doom was a huge step up from Wolfenstein because Wolfenstein was just like a single level. Like it was like a floor and a ceiling. But Doom, it was like there was stairs, the ceilings were just extended high, there was elevators, and it was designed as a linear game, but it was actually very vertical with its possibilities, which opened up the door for a lot of what are called Doom clones that came out in the 90s. These first-person shooters like Duke Nukem 3D, Blood, Shadow Warrior. Those are to name a few. I played a ton of Doom clones. Like that was my favorite thing to play, was these first-person shooters, these Doom clones, and eventually the first-person genre expanded into the abomination known as Halo. and,
I mean, Xbox
and
would disagree with you about that being an abomination, but I agree with you.
yeah, well, Xbox is an abomination.
I'm with you on that, by the way.
But it opened up the doorway for other abominations like Call of Duty, and then great games like the Unreal Tournament series, the new Overwatch, Fallout as well.
Huh.
The Fallout series, BioShock. It just opened up a world of possibilities. And the cool thing about when Doom came out is it was like, this is what the future of games is going to be now. It's going to be very 3D. It's going to be vertical now.
Right.
Instead of just, straight up horizontal. And that's why it was so, that's one of the reasons it was so revolutionary.
Right.
And just different. So the other thing about it was the music.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the music.
Love the music.
So the music for it was very heavily 80s influenced.
Yeah.
Yeah. The interesting thing about
5 seconds, you know that.
I know, seriously, it's very metal, like super metal, played on like a MIDI keyboard.
Yep.
Which is
just awesome.
Which is awesome because it's the weirdest thing, but it's so cool. And
I gotta be honest, that was one of my favorite parts about the game.
Oh, I loved it. I loved the music almost as much as just the game. Like the music for it was, it was something you hadn't really seen. Like heavy rock music, like metal, on like a MIDI, like 16-bit, 32-bit keyboard.
Right.
And that was just so different. And it wasn't constructed like songs. It was just melodies. Because it was designed to loop.
Right.
But yet
was
they
the
had
point because the game, it wasn't like other games where you'd have like basically a set beginning and end. It was a you play until you win or die, basically.
Yeah. And so that was the cool thing about Doom, was just like the music, and a lot of the music was based off of like songs from Megadeth, Metallica, and stuff like that. And there's no way to like quote prove that. But a lot of the like if you look at certain notes for when the game was made, it shows like basis, and it would say like a Metallica song or something like that.
That's awesome.
So it was like it was inspired or ripped off, however you want to look at it. Inspired by various 80s metal bands. And that was just like the first one. The second one, not as much. When Doom 2 came out, a lot of that stuff was still, a lot of it was still fairly original, even though it was inspired by 80s music. But it was a lot more of an original soundtrack, which is, I think I like the, that sounds super nerdy, but I love the Doom 2 soundtrack. Did you ever play Doom 2, Caleb?
I not really. I think I played it like twice, but it was like way back in the 90s.
Yeah. So the cool thing about Doom 2 was, it was pretty much the same as Doom, same engine type of thing, but had a lot more monsters. And then the monsters started doing some really weird stuff that you never saw in video games. For instance, they had a creature called the Archvile.
Right.
And what this creature would do is it would create like a thing of fire around you, and then it would just boost you up in the air after the fire cackled or whatever.
Right.
It was kind of like a 2-second grenade under your butt, and that's just how it worked with it. And so it was like you were moved vertically up from this explosion, and that didn't really happen in the first game at all. But the same monster would also run around resurrecting all the monsters that you killed.
Yeah, that sounds freaking maddening.
Yeah, and it's just like, crap, I just did all this work. And in theory, you could be fighting this thing forever. I mean, a couple of shotgun blasts to the face and it's gone, but you're getting a room
Maybe.
full of everyone else that you've taken out. You can be going on forever. Then there was these small little flying things in the first game called Lost Souls. They're just these flying little skulls that are on fire. Nothing really special. But there was a creature that also flew around in the second one called a pain elemental. And it would just spit out, like literally vomit these lost souls out through its mouth. And unless you took out the pain elemental, you could be fighting this thing forever.
Yeah.
And that was the type of thing that, the encounters that Doom created. Potential encounters that could last forever.
Right.
And the other one, another encounter that could last forever. The very last boss of Doom 2. And this level is called the Icon of Sin as well.
Ooh.
Creepiest music ever. Like, if you go to YouTube, just type in Icon of Sin Doom music. It is creepy. For a MIDI file, it is so creepy. It's just kind of unnerving, but kind of sweet at the same time, which is a weird combo for anything. And so what it is you step through a teleporter, and then you see this giant goat head hanging on a wall.
Freaky.
And the thing's like 60. Yeah, it's really creepy. 60 feet, in video game size. And what it does is it's got this hole in its head. And then it says something to you, and I'll mention what it says in a moment. It says something really creepy, and then it starts launching these boxes out of like the hole in its skull. And then a box hits the ground, and when a box hits the ground, it turns into a monster.
Huh.
And it's random for the monster, and it just keeps going. And the way that you defeat it is you have to take it. It's really weird, and you wouldn't know this unless like you looked it up, or I don't know. You have to take this. They have this elevator in the middle of this pool of acid. I know, this is so metal.
That is like the most metal game.
It's so metal.
The most metal game of all time.
And this elevator thing, and you got to run up and hit the pool of acid. Get it to go down. Get on top of it. And as the elevator is raising, you have to hit your rocket launcher and just shoot like as you're going up. Try to knock one of these rockets inside the hole in the skull. And you got to hit 2 rockets into the hole.
Huh.
And that's how it works. Now, side note with this, one of the designers for this game was named John Romero. And he's probably like one of the coolest guys I've ever seen, like with interviews, just like a super chill dude.
Okay.
And so the designers for Doom 2, inside that giant goat head, they put John Romero's head on a stick.
Dude, that's awesome.
And basically what you're doing is when you're hitting the rocket has like a splash damage, like a little bit of what's the term? Ricocheted, I guess is probably the best way of putting it. Ricocheted off the wall, and then it hits the head, and the head's the real boss of what it was. And so the designers put that in there, and they didn't tell John. Trying to be all sneaky. Well, he found out about it. He's like, "Oh man, that's a jerk move." So he went to a microphone or whatever and recorded him saying, "To win this game, you must defeat me, John Romero." And then he took it, and then he reversed it, played it backwards.
Okay.
Put some demonic like tones underneath it and effects. And then when you teleport to first fight that monster, it pops out, and then it says that weird, that
right.
to win this game, you must defeat me, John Romero, backwards.
Dude,
and that's like, yeah, it's little things like that make that with all their inside jokes or just stuff that make the game cool.
Man, these guys are way cooler than the guys that set up Facebook.
I know, seriously. Like, I would rather see what's it? Like not a documentary, a movie about Doom being set up.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
what do they call that? Like a when it's like a because it's not really a documentary, but it's a
Like a
movie.
dramatized one,
Yeah, a dramatized like reenactment
reenactment documentary. I don't know.
thing.
I'm guessing that's the term, but yeah, I would much rather see that for this because it sounds really cool, like stuff
Yeah,
like
dude, that's
that.
that's dope, man. That is so cool.
So here's another cool thing they did: the marketing for this game. So they wanted to really make an impact for it, and then when they were working on it, they wanted some crazy buzz. And this was before social media, and the internet was there, but it wasn't huge.
Right.
And so they were really bragging. They said this is going to be the greatest game of all time. And so with a claim like that, you got to deliver.
Right. Well,
And then
yeah,
they
'cause if
did,
you don't, then you're
yeah.
ready.
Well, then they did something even crazier. They gave it like the first episode of it. They gave it away for free, and that was called shareware. And they were the first company to really do that. It was kind of like a demo
Right.
of
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, but shareware was like the big thing in the 90s for games. And it was with Doom. And that's why it was so cool. And it's so funny because right after it was released, a lot of people were calling in sick the next week.
Of
Like
course.
in companies across the US because they were playing Doom.
I mean, wouldn't you?
I would have had I had a job, but instead I had school, so I called in sick to that. No, I didn't. But
I was like,
I remember I was
your
like
school had that?
nah, I was in 4th grade when it came out, Doom, and I was just playing it like crazy as this little 4th grader playing this game where you're shooting up demons and
Yeah, blasting things and
I know if I would have
taking names.
yeah, seriously, if I met older me and younger me would be like, what am I going to be doing in like a little year? And it's like, kind of just hanging out playing Doom.
Probably just the same thing you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I would like, maybe I got a good thing going, but yeah, that shareware thing that was like a big deal, um, to really market the game. And the other thing they did to market it was they had that really cool cover, with the guy on top of the mountain, all the demons are coming after him.
Right. Yep, I remember
Um,
that.
and they had that going, but they didn't really have like any box art. So they distributed this game to a lot of video game stores, and they told them like, "Hey, man, come out with your own box art." So you could go to a video game store, see the same Doom game in several different boxes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I watched. I'm not gonna lie, I probably watched about 3 to 5, probably about 5 total documentaries on Doom. Like there's so many different ones, and they all tell like the same story slightly differently, and shows John Romero in his home, and he's like pulling off all these boxes off the shelf. He's like, here are some of the interesting Doom boxes that I saw, and they're all different, and they're all weird, and they're super cool. But that was what the company did at the time. They gave their distributors freedom to make like their own boxes and art and things like that, and really just allowed them that creative control.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's cool.
and you don't see that anymore
No, you
because
really
a
don't.
lot of it's digital download type of
Right.
thing.
Right.
Another small thing they did in episode 1 of the game, level 4, they did like a little map thing. And originally on there, like you would hit this like button to make the floor drop, and when the floor would drop, it would originally form a swastika, and
Ooh.
everyone was like, "These guys are Nazis," blah blah blah. And what it was supposed to be a reference to Wolfenstein,
Right.
the game they did previously. And so they're calling John Romero a Nazi for this. He's like, "Dude, I'm Indian. What are you doing?" kind of thing. It's like what's going on?
So yeah, you have one of those. Sorry, what?
Yeah, I mean, calling people Nazis before 2016.
Yeah, what a weirdo.
I know, seriously. And that was just another one of those cool little things that they did that they just threw in just because they felt like it.
Nice.
And that was, I don't know, that's why I just enjoyed it, because it was just a bunch of these weird personal things that they had that they just wanted to throw in. The other thing about it was like how popular this game became. This could be arguably the most played game, or downloaded game, or distributed game. It's I don't know about best selling. I think best selling, or most grossing is Grand Theft Auto. I think that's the one with the
I think
record.
so. I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Which, I mean, those games are okay.
yeah. I got nothing against Grand Theft Auto. But Doom's got about it's hard to track it because with the shareware they had those floppy disks, and some people would install them on their computer, give them to their friends, and stuff like that. We had a copy of Doom 2 on the 5.25 floppy disk, and it was like in a batch file.
Dude, I remember those floppies.
Yeah, the 5.25s, and with those and the batch file or whatever, it took 32 of those suckers to install Doom 2, which oddly enough, that was one disc per level on there, which I thought was actually kind of cool. The files weren't distributed that way on there, but I just thought that was so cool. Like, oh man, 32 discs. But holy cow, you hear about that today. Like 32 of anything sounds insane. Like that's a lot.
Yeah, it really is.
But so with the shareware, they clocked this at about 10 million downloads, which is quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, World of Warcraft at its height had 12 million.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah. So that's so I mean for Doom, that's before, WoW, and like when the internet really blew up. I mean that's pretty crazy just how big that was.
But yeah, dude. I mean, and even, I mean, I was pretty young when the first Doom came out, and I mean, my brother, I remember he brought home all those floppies to install them onto the computer, and I was like, "What is this? What's this gonna be? What is it? Oh man, what's this?" And then
Yeah.
he did a playthrough, and he I would watch him or whatever, because I mean, he wouldn't let me play it. He said it was too
And
violent
it's
for me
also
to
one of those
play.
games you can watch people play for
Oh
some
yeah,
reason. I don't
it
know
is.
what it is about it,
It's
but you
it's
just
just
can.
it's just fun, dude. Well, that's the thing is it's just fun, and it's one of those things. I mean, especially for its time, it was incredibly visually pleasing. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, it just, to put it, plainly, it just kicked ass.
It did. It did. It still kicks ass.
Oh yeah, oh
Um,
yeah. And I
they
mean,
they sorry, go on.
I don't think, I even today, if I bet you money I could download that game, right now and play it for the next 12 hours, not even think about it.
Yeah, the
You
thing
know?
about it is, with it, the levels were also interesting and weird, that it
Oh
was
yeah.
always like you're exploring something and you're enjoying yourself. And I wanted to keep it kind of like a maze and not have it be what it would be in real life,
Right, right.
which is a lot of games these days. They're like, well, we got to make this how it would be in real life. And the thing about Doom was, because it wasn't real life, it was very fantasy-esque. And
Right.
that's what made it cool, because it was so fantasy-esque, and it built its own world that it was believable. Whereas games today, they're trying too hard to be believable by building up like a reality type world and then throwing fantasy elements in if they fit.
Yeah, which is honestly, it's stupid, I mean, uh,
No one plays
especially
video games for realism, and if they do, they're
no, no. Video games are an escape, you know?
yeah.
Like, if we want real life, we could just go outside,
I know, seriously,
you
exactly.
know?
Or get
But
VR. I mean,
yeah, what?
and even then, like now Skyrim VR.
Yeah, which I gotta be honest, it looks like it would be cool for about the first couple hours, and then it just feels like it would be a huge headache.
I don't know, man. I logged about over 1,200 hours of Skyrim. Skyrim has got the I don't know.
I mean,
WoW might be a
need
contender, but Skyrim's probably my most played game ever. And it's not even
Well-
my favorite. It's just like there was just so much to do, and it was just fun.
No, sure, and sorry, let me explain that a little bit differently. What I mean is, being in a VR that long,
Oh,
especially in that kind of an environment, would be very difficult. You know what I mean?
yeah, I see where you're coming from. I don't
And
know. I
but
think
I haven't done
I'd
a
have
ton of
fun with
VR,
it.
so I don't really know. But I'm just saying, like that's from like and my outside perspective. I'm like, man, because Skyrim, I didn't play it a ton. I played it a little bit, but it's just because it's just such a, uh, it's kind of like a shaky cam video game, and I just
Yeah,
feel like,
yeah.
when you watch a shaky cam movie, it's like, okay, Michael Bay, I'm getting a headache. Stop it.
And the thing about that I liked about Skyrim was mods. And so
Right.
I was
Right.
able to change that, which is why the game lasted so long. But the original game to have mods, Doom.
Doom.
No
Yeah.
joke. We
You're welcome,
had
Skyrim. You're welcome. From
yeah,
Doom.
they're both owned by the same company now.
Well, but still,
Still interesting. But
you're
no,
welcome.
I had some Doom mods. These are so funny. There were tons of these just like on the internet. Like I remember having to get on AOL and just like search these files. Back in the day, back when AOL had like a file database that you could search. It was really weird.
Back when AOL at all.
I know. My ringtone for my phone is actually the like when I get a text at the AOL IM ding.
Oh my gosh.
And when I get mail, it's literally the you got mail. Like I'm nostalgic for the terribleness of AOL. Like so there it is, people. I was right. Nostalgia does ruin everything. I'm telling you.
Well,
but
the good part of nostalgia is dwelling on it, is dwelling.
I know, seriously. But I got a Doom mod that turned these guys with the shotgun guys as they were called, real original.
Super original.
Turned them into the Energizer Bunny. And every time they would like bang their little drums is when they would fire off a shot. And when you shoot them, they would die and they'd say, still going. And then there are these demons that run around and they just use their mouths and bite you. And those were Pac-Man. But the best one, when you killed it, it made the Pac-Man death sound.
Ooh.
As well. But the best one that we had was Barney the dinosaur.
No.
And he replaced what are called Barons of Hell, which is in the first episode of Doom. At the very end, you fight these two goat monsters. They're basically kind of like small minotaurs that throw fireballs.
Right.
Those were replaced by Barney. And this mod, you would run around, and even if you hid from Barney, you would still hear the "I Love You" music song, and it would just keep going until you blew him away. And when you shot him, he would say, "Won't you say you love me too?" And it was like, I don't know. That was during the Barney hate phase of my life, or
Sure.
a lot of people's lives.
The regular thing that everyone goes through.
I know. I kind of feel bad for Barney Dinosaur. I mean, he wasn't like a bad childhood icon. He was just really dumb. I mean, he did pave the way for the Teletubbies.
Ugh.
So I
don't want to. Gross.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Doom mods. Those were great, and that was another cool thing. Doom gave like the source code for things. People were like deciphering, decrypting, and then making all these little mods or WAD files, as they were called, and creating all this weird stuff. And so there were people releasing like their own versions of Doom, like with their own 20 to 32 levels, selling them at $15 a pop, like these expansion sets. and people were just going nuts. I had one called The Lost Episodes of Doom that my dad bought me for my birthday, and it actually came with a strategy guide. It was cool. It was just really interesting, the type of stuff that people would make with the source code and then go and market it. I just thought that was like,
Yeah,
just
no, dude, that's dope.
yeah, and then it paved the way for modding for tons of other games too, like
See, I mean,
Skyrim,
Doom quite
Fallout.
honestly, paved the way for a lot of things, honestly. If you really like, now that I'm hearing all this, I'm like, dang, Doom was basically the godfather of everyone.
It really was. Well, it gets even better than that. Deathmatch was introduced in Doom.
Yeah, I do remember that.
I never played the deathmatch. I've seen other people do it, but deathmatch came in Doom, and when you killed someone, they were called frags.
Right.
Now in games like Overwatch, when someone's killed, they call it picks, which I don't really approve of. I like frags better.
Well, it's because frag sounds cooler.
It sounds way cooler, but it paved the way for deathmatch games like Overwatch as well. Right. The Call of Duty deathmatch stuff, Halo, gross. I mean, I hate Halo. I hate Call of Duty so much. It's just like they're just instant gratification shooters.
Yep.
And they don't really have any substance to them. It's like what I mentioned with they try to take the reality and then throw in the fantasy elements afterwards.
Which is just silly.
And I don't enjoy that. I like where you throw in like all the fantasy and weird crap and then try to sprinkle in a little bit of reality to make it not believable, but more relatable.
Huh.
Yeah. And that's just my personal soapbox. I'll get down now. But but yeah, deathmatch was a big thing. With it, 9 Inch Nails. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a big 9 Inch Nails fan. Best concerts I've been to have been 9 Inch Nails concerts. And I often tell people, they're like, "What's the first concert you've ever, like the first best concert you've ever been to?" I'm like, 9 Inch Nails. They're like, "What's the second best?" I'm like, 9 Inch Nails.
What about her?
And they don't bother. And I've only been to 2 of them, but they don't really bother asking after that. But every time they go on tour, I see them. But the nice thing is they go about every 5 years, which is when I'm about ready to go party too. So it kind of all works out. But when Doom was really big, they were playing it on their tour bus.
Huh.
And so Trent Reznor approached John Romero, I think it was, and they got to talking. And so a game came out after Doom called Quake,
right? I remember
which wasn't nearly as big. It was supposed to be better than Doom. It just wasn't. There was a lot of issues with it. I won't get into those. But Trent Reznor wrote the score to Quake. So that, like, because it used real instruments rather than a MIDI type music. It was kind of, and the problem with Quake was it was kind of it was trying to become too much like reality. Even though if you like looked at the stuff back in the day, it just didn't work. Now Quake is mostly a deathmatch, an arena game.
Right.
It's big claim to fame, and I haven't played it. I've seen stuff for it, and it's kind of cool because one thing that Quake has been doing is it throws in little heroes from like the id universe, like the Doom. I think the Doom guy is in one thing, but I know BJ Blazkowicz from Wolfenstein is a character you can play.
Nice.
As well. And so, I mean, it's kind of cool. It's finding its little niche now in 2017. I mean, that's cool. But Doom, it's had a couple reboots. Had a Doom 3 back in 2005, I think it was.
Yeah, wasn't that one called Doom 3D or whatever?
No, this one was just Doom 3, and it
that was Duke Nukem. I'm getting
Duke Nukem 3D, sorry. But Doom 3 was like it was just so graphics intensive.
Yep.
And it was basically kind of a horror survival game. like you had to choose between, like it was so dark, and you had to choose between using your flashlight or a gun, and that kind of sucked. Like
Yeah, that's
you had to choose for
terrible.
visibility or what you're gonna shoot, and that was it was kind of too freaky. The other thing about it being so graphics intensive was this little side joke that people were saying. It's like today at NASA we were able to run Doom 3 for about 12 seconds before our computers melted down. It was things like that. Like it was just that graphics intensive. And then last year for 2016, Doom got a heavy reboot, and they tried to make it kind of like the original, just very metal music, but it wasn't MIDI.
Why
And
not
just
MIDI? Come on.
yeah, I know, right? Not MIDI style, but just very heavy, aggressive. Like if you listen to it, it's so metal. Like it's just like teenage angst dream type of thing. And there isn't much of a story. And like when they try to put story into the game, your character gets frustrated, smashes an intercom, and all this other stuff. He purposely ignores quest objectives. And that was the thing about Doom. It's kind of just a big fuck you to these modern day shooters. Where they have all these stories and these quest objectives, and Doom 2016 is just all about running around shooting shit, and that's what made it great. Like the original, you just ran around shooting shit.
Yeah, you just run around getting them,
getting them done. But I mean, I could go on forever, but I think we're at a kind of a good closing point, and I felt like this was a good show because we're coming up on Doom's anniversary.
Go Doom.
I know, go Doom, which is, I think it's sometime in December. I think sometime about December 10th is when it
Christmas.
is. Yeah, close to our Christmas specials or whatever. That's our show. I want to thank Caleb for coming on.
Always.
And until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Peace!
Thank you for listening to the MCS1 Show. For bi-weekly episodes on society and counterculture, subscribe on iTunes, Google Play or Stitcher. For regular updates, show notes and links, head to the MCS1Show.com or search AOL keyword MCS1.
So you're gonna go play StarCraft?
Probably, but first I'm gonna eat some dinner, blow my nose, and probably sleep for the next 12 years.
Oh my gosh, no kidding. That yeah, it's kind of how I feel right now.
Yeah, I'm so tired right now. I'm kind of like, maybe I'll just play tomorrow. But then I want to finish the game.
I know, that's how I feel with like some things. That's how I felt with the new Wolfenstein. I was like, man, do I finish it now? But then I just want to finish it, that type of thing. So, new Wolfenstein's amazing, by the way. Like, really good. Nice. All right. Anyway, I will catch you later.
All right, bro. We will talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
All right, man.
Bye.
Later.